Welcome to today's news on TV9. I'm Ada Show. In today's local news, a new report shows that the number of million-dollar suburbs is now higher than at any time during the previous housing boom, while a study found that there would be no benefits to further integration through a Trans-Tasman Monetary Union for New Zealand and Australia. The government has introduced the second round of welfare reform legislation, prompting a poverty action group to occupy the Ministry of Social Development's Auckland office. Christy Joe reports.
Social Development Minister Paula Bennett's second welfare bill was signed off by Cabinet this week. The new bill will reduce the number of benefit categories from 7 to 3, including job seekers support for those actively seeking and available for work, sole parent support for sole parents with children under 14 years, and supported living payment for people significantly restricted by sickness. Benefits will also be more work-focused, with sole parents having to be available for part-time work when their youngest child reaches school age and full-time work when that youngest child turns 14. As a result, the government is expecting to save up to $1.6 billion over 4 years, with 44,000 people moving off the benefit and into work. But Auckland Action Against Poverty is not buying any of that. They staged their own Occupy movement yesterday at the Ministry of Social Development's Auckland office, calling the reforms ongoing attacks on beneficiaries.
Similar policies to this have been implemented in the UK and they've had dire consequences. A number of people, it's estimated at around 1,000 people who were on the disability benefit over there have actually committed suicide as a result of the stress and the pressure of the workability testing and of the government trying to push them into work. We would not be surprised to see similar things happening here in New Zealand as a result of these very punitive reforms.
The protesters demanded more job creation from the government before being arrested by police. The changes in the Social Security Amendment Bill are expected to come into effect from July next year. Christy Zhao, 9 News.
11 suburbs in Auckland have become the most expensive areas with an average house value of $1 million or more. The chance of New Zealand's first 2 million suburb could be near too. According to the new figures released by Property IQ to the New Zealand Herald Review, the number of million-dollar suburbs in Auckland has reached to 11. Herne Bay ranked as the most expensive suburb on the list again, with an average house price of $1.8 million, a rise of 10.5% since last year. Herne Bay became Auckland's first million suburb in 2003, followed by St Mary's Bay in 2004. Other suburbs that made it onto the list are St Mary's Bay, Parnell, Epsom, Steny Point, Remuera, Takapuna and Mission Bay, while Westmere, Ponsonby and Devonport are the 3 latest suburbs to join the list. Westmere had the biggest increase with a 12.9% rise in average values. Property IQ Research Director John Ingerson said if Herne Bay continues to increase its value at this rate, there would be a very good chance of New Zealand having its first 2 million suburb by Christmas. Foodstuffs, which own Foursquare, New World and Pak'nSave, has put a 3% promotion rebate on every item that is sold in its supermarkets in Wellington. However, the supermarket giant has promised suppliers that the charge would not be applied to the rest of the country, and there are no plans to increase it in Wellington. Retail shareholders could hold the power to block Hire's bid to take over Fisher & Paykel appliances, and some are calling for them to wait for a better deal. Christy Joe has more.
Hire, the Chinese white goods manufacturer and owner of 20% of Fisher & Paykel appliances, has locked up shareholder Allan Gray Australia into a deal to sell its 17.46% holding, giving the Qingdao-based company a 37.46% interest. Last week, Hire lobbed a bid to take over the Kiwi manufacturer at $869 million, and the offer is conditional on Hire gaining more than 50% acceptance. But Fisher & Paykel's roughly 4,000 retail shareholders could also block the takeover, especially if the independent report due next month found Hire's proposed offer of $1.20 per share was too low.
I'm not particularly interested in it at $1.20 a share, because Fisher & Paykel has still quite a long way to go to recover fully towards the position that it was in before 2008.
If Haier gains more than 90% acceptance, the full takeover will be successful and the company will likely delist from NZX, something the government is already coming under pressure for, as opposition parties say FPA is the type of innovative company New Zealand can't afford to lose. Christy Zhao, 9 News.
The latest events of infants' formula falsely advertised with New Zealand's labels overseas have caused quite a stir. And an association has been established by local producers to ensure New Zealand exports bought offshore are of true origin and brand. Infants Formula New Zealand chairman says the association will include an accreditation process which identifies New Zealand exports as an approved brand. New Zealand and Australia are unlikely to go down the European path and create a single currency, as the study finds a trans-Tasman monetary union to have no benefits. Christy Joe reports.
In March, John Key and Julia Gillard asked the Productivity Commissions to study the feasibility of closer economic integration between New Zealand and Australia. The aim was to create a seamless market between the two countries, allowing citizens and businesses to have a domestic-like experience in either country. But now the idea of a trans-Tasman monetary union has been ruled out because the commissions believe the costs far outweigh the benefits. A monetary union means adopting a shared currency between Australia and New Zealand, but it would also mean extra costs to set things up, and there would be a loss of autonomy over monetary policy and exchange rate flexibility. The Productivity Commission's joint report says this means that in the event of an economic shock to New Zealand, but not to Australia, or vice versa, adjustment through the exchange rate or monetary policy would no longer be possible, and would instead necessitate adjustment through prices, wages and employment. Monetary union hardly ever works well without there being also some degree of political union. A political union is clearly not in the interest of either government, especially when the study also finds remaining barriers in regulations areas affecting services, trade and investment. The report identifies about 20 policy initiatives to promote further beneficial economic integration. Submissions to the draft can be made until October 18. Christy Zhao, 9 News.
As from all over the world are looking forward to the world premiere of The Hobbit, which today has been announced to be on the 18th of November. And the Wellington City Council has also announced plans to close some streets in its inner city for up to 36 hours and will have a party zone to celebrate the events. It's Starship Foundation Spring Clean Time, and an online charity auction is running from now till the end of the month. Prizes include a 1-hour lunch with actor Hugh Bonneville from Downtown Abbey and a walk-on roll on Shortland Street. Amy From reports.
Starship Spring Clean is Starship Foundation's biggest program of the year. People can contribute to Starship simply by selling their belongings on Trade Me. And if 50% or more of the proceeds is donated to Starship, Trade Me will waive the success fee for the seller.
Well, there's a huge number of items on the Starship Spring Clean Trade Me site at the moment, and I think you've seen the camel, which is one unique item, but even that is a very unique, special item from Steiff in Germany. It's a very unique collectible item, so we hope it goes for a lot of money. But there's other opportunities like lunch with the Downton Abbey stars. There is an experience to be a walk-on Shortland Street. There are a number of different experience type things, as well as collectible items from the likes of Ryan Nelson, our soccer star, and many, many other celebrity items. But it's mainly the public that are supporting us in such a big way by cleaning out their closets, cleaning out their garage, and loading their items on the Starship Spring Clean site on Trade Me.
The money raised from this program will go towards a pediatric intensive care unit.
At Starship Foundation, as the National Children's Hospital, Starship has a national brief to ensure that we have a centre of excellence in children's health in the country, and one of our key areas as a specialist unit within Starship is the Pediatric Intensive Care Unit, or PICU, and that area is going to receive the funds from the Starship Spring Clean this year.
For the first time ever, people are able to download their own posters and stickers and hold their own garage sales. Starship Foundation is thankful to all the support that they are receiving and would like to encourage more people to join them in helping children at the Starship Hospital. Amy Feng, 9 News.
The echo of the wave of anti-Japan protests erupting in China, local Chinese in Auckland gathered for a petition signing event on the anniversary of Japan's invasion of China. Chrissy Zhao reports.
China and Japan have been locked in a territorial dispute over the Diaoyu Islands for years, but the tension escalated dramatically last week when China sent 6 surveillance ships to a group of uninhabited islets in the East China Sea in response to Japan's decision to buy the islands. Anti-Japan protests erupted throughout China, and on September 18, the 81st anniversary of Japan's invasion of northeast China, up to 1,000 local Chinese gathered in an eastern suburb of Auckland to sign a protest petition. Organizer of the event, the New Zealand Protecting Diaoyu Islands Association, says it wants to encourage peaceful demonstration.
我们呢，希望呢，就是通过这次活动，来表达这个华人对保钓，特别是呢，今天是一个特殊的日子，是个918，所以呢，我们要搞一个勿忘国耻，坚持保钓这么一个，表示一个决心。
The banner and the signatures will be sent to China's State Council Office for Taiwan Affairs, which handles matters relating to the islands. The Chinese have claimed the discovery and control of the island since ancient times, but the issue is complicating efforts by China and Japan to resolve oil and gas disputes in the East China Sea. Christy Zhao, 9 News.
Now we have a TV9 host from Asia Focus, Julie Nixon, to comment on name change can open doors.
It's been reported that recruitment companies are telling immigrants that they should take on Kiwi-sounding names to enhance their job prospects. This week there was a report of a 22-year-old Syrian man being told he should change his name to something more Western after applying for a graduate position within Graham McMillan's business, GM Designs, in Invercargill. Labour Ethnic Affairs spokesperson Rajan Prasad, who was born in Fiji of Indian descent, joined the discussion by saying recruitment agencies are displaying a discriminatory attitude. Dr Prasad adopted the name Harry for a few years when he arrived in New Zealand in the 1960s, but then he changed it back. His argument is that there's no justification for recruitment agencies to say their clients will not act well to somebody with a name that is hard to pronounce. He might be right if it was a perfect world, but he's not being realistic. When employers look at a potential employee, they don't just ask themselves if this person has the right qualifications or is smart enough. They're largely concerned about whether the person will fit in. Businesses like sports teams are successful when there's teamwork. If you've got an unpronounceable name, it'll be a barrier to your workmates. Just as New Zealanders are going to take on all sorts of things when they go to other parts of the world, they'll do anything just to fit in. People coming here need to try and fit in as well. Labour MP Raymond Ho, who was born in China, changed his name to Jian Chang Ho because it can't be pronounced properly in English. Many Chinese who live in New Zealand have adopted English names for the same reason. When I lived in China, I took on a Chinese name, not because I had to, but because it was suggested that I do, and I considered it a privilege. A name change for those people with unpronounceable foreign names is a smart move here in New Zealand. Those who take on westernised names may at least get a foot in the door, so they can then demonstrate their competence and personality. Of course, once they're established, they could always change their name back.
Thanks, Julian. Now let's take a short break and we'll be back.